The 2025 NBA Finals bring a financial shock. For the first time since the luxury tax system began in 2002, neither the Thunder nor the Pacers are paying the tax. Both teams built rosters under the $170.8 million threshold, breaking a trend that has defined nearly every finals for over 2 decades. That alone sets them apart from the 26 taxpayer teams and 16 taxpaying champions who have dominated this era. But here's the real twist. Both clubs leveraged trades for a single player, Paul George, as a low-cost blueprint for contention. We'll break down 2 bold gambles, one in OKC, one in Indiana, and show how they built finals teams on a budget. So how does one basketball player who isn't even playing for either of these finals teams end up being the secret architect behind both their runs to the championship? Back in the summer of 2017, the Indiana Pacers faced a crossroads. Paul George, their all-star forward and franchise centerpiece, made it clear he wouldn't re-sign when his contract expired in 2018. His preference for Los Angeles was no secret, and Indiana suddenly risked losing him for nothing. The front office, led by Kevin Pritchard, had to act fast. The challenge: extract meaningful value from a star who everyone knew was ready to bolt. Other teams could lowball, knowing George was a one-year rental. The Pacers needed a trade partner willing to gamble. That's where Oklahoma City's Sam Presti stepped in. On July 6, 2017, Presti pulled the trigger on a high-stakes deal. The Thunder sent Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis to Indiana for Paul George. This wasn't a typical win-now move for a small-market team. George had just 1 guaranteed year left on his contract. OKC risked top 20 draft assets and young talent for a single season of a star, all in hopes that pairing George with Russell Westbrook would be enough to convince both to stay long-term. The move was bold, especially for a franchise with little room for error, but for Presti, it was a calculated risk, echoing his scared money don't make none mantra, a willingness to bet big when the opportunity felt right. For the Pacers, the return was Oladipo, a guard who'd flashed potential but hadn't yet broken out, and Sabonis, a young big man coming off a rough rookie season. At first glance, the deal drew skepticism. Many questioned if Oladipo and Sabonis could ever fill George's shoes, especially since neither had shown all-star form. But Indiana saw something others didn't. They believed both players would thrive with bigger roles and a new system. Oladipo's time of possession doubled in Indiana, and Sabonis found a comfort zone as a versatile big. The Pacers made a bet on upside and development, hoping these two could anchor a new era. Meanwhile, the Thunder's gamble paid its first dividend the next summer. In 2018, George re-signed with OKC, quelling fears of a one-year rental. This kept the Thunder in the contender conversation and validated Presti's risk. But that was just the opening act. George's next move would reshape OKC's future even more dramatically. The immediate results for both teams were mixed. Oklahoma City paired George and Westbrook, but couldn't advance past the first round in the playoffs. Indiana watched Oladipo emerge as an All-NBA guard, even as Sabonis blossomed into a reliable contributor. Yet the full impact of this trade wouldn't be felt right away. Both franchises had acquired assets that would soon become the foundation for something much bigger. This single transaction, driven by a superstar's desire to leave and a GM's willingness to risk it all, set off a chain of decisions. The Pacers' rebuild took on a new shape, and the Thunder's roster flexibility gave them options no one could have predicted. The true legacy of the 2017 Paul George trade wouldn't be about who won the swap in the short term. Instead, it would be about how each team managed the ripple effects, turning one bold move into the groundwork for a finals run years down the line. And that's where things get even more interesting. The initial swap was just the beginning. The way both teams transformed those pieces into championship caliber rosters is a story of asset management, timing, and vision. What happened next with those assets tells the real story of how both franchises turned Paul George's departure into the foundation for their finals runs. After Paul George re-signed in OKC, he later requested a trade to the Los Angeles Clippers in July 2019. This time, Sam Presti saw an opportunity to reshape his franchise for the long haul. The Thunder sent George to the Clippers, and in return received Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, 5 unprotected first-round picks, and 2 pick swaps. The magnitude of that return was almost unheard of. ESPN's Kevin Pelton called it preposterous. 5 unprotected first-rounders and 2 swaps, plus a young guard with star upside, gave Oklahoma City a war chest of assets that would define their rebuild. On the other side, Indiana was making moves of its own. Victor Oladipo, part of that original George trade, blossomed into an All-NBA guard, but injuries slowed his rise. The real turning point for the Pacers came from the steady development of Domantas Sabonis. By 2022, Sabonis had become an all-star, but Indiana saw an opportunity to push their ceiling even higher. On February 8, 2022, the Pacers traded Sabonis, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a second-round pick to the Sacramento Kings. In return, they landed Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. Haliburton, a young playmaker on a team-friendly rookie deal, became the centerpiece of Indiana's future. The logic behind Indiana's move was clear. They were willing to part with an established all-star in Sabonis to acquire Haliburton, who was 4 years younger and already showing signs of elite playmaking. The Pacers saw Haliburton as a guard who could drive their offense for years to come, even if it meant taking a short-term risk by trading a proven star. The decision to build around Haliburton rather than stick with Sabonis was a calculated bet on long-term upside and roster flexibility. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City put their haul from the Clippers to work. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander quickly became the face of the franchise, blossoming into an All-NBA talent. The Thunder used their surplus of draft picks to select and develop players like Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, and they leveraged their flexibility to add key contributors around their young core. Every major piece of their current roster, from the lottery picks to the role players, can be traced back to the assets acquired in the Paul George trades. Indiana's path was just as deliberate. By flipping Sabonis for Haliburton, they secured a young star to build around. They supplemented him with smart drafting and targeted trades, assembling a competitive roster without ever breaking the bank. The Pacers' willingness to make bold moves, even when it meant letting go of an all-star, kept them agile and ahead of the curve. So both franchises essentially grew their finals cores from the ripple effects of those two Paul George trades. Every key player and asset on these rosters can be traced back to those decisions, showing just how much one superstar's movement can shape the future of multiple teams. It's rare to see teams reach the finals without massive payrolls or luxury tax bills. But here we are in 2025 with two small market teams who defied convention. How did they pull it off? And what makes this finals matchup so different from anything we've seen in the luxury tax era? This year's finals are defined by a shift that few saw coming. Two teams from smaller markets, Oklahoma City and Indiana, have reached the championship without paying a cent in luxury tax. Both teams stayed under the $170.8 million threshold. OKC's payroll sits at $165.6 million, 25th in the league, and Indiana's at $169.1 million. That's not just unusual, it's almost unheard of in the luxury tax era, where big spending has been the norm for contenders. The NBA's luxury tax, in place since 2001-22, was designed to keep the league competitive by penalizing teams that overspend on salaries. Most finals teams since then have been taxpayers, 26 out of 44, with 16 of the 22 champions during this period footing hefty tax bills. The system was supposed to level the playing field, but in practice, it often separated the big spenders from the rest. Small markets typically can't match LA or New York spending until now. So how did the Thunder and Pacers flip the script? Here's the blueprint. They stockpiled picks via the Paul George trades, drafted stars on rookie deals like Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, and supplemented the core with mid-tier signings such as Lou Dort and Isaiah Hartenstein. No max contract free agents, no desperate spending sprees. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Thunder's leader, was acquired before his breakout and now anchors the roster at $35 million per year. The rest of OKC's contributors, like Dort at $16.5 million and Hartenstein at $29 million over 3 years, fit comfortably under the tax line. Their young talent, especially those on rookie contracts, let them build depth while keeping costs low. Indiana used a similar approach. They turned asset accumulation into a competitive advantage, flipping Paul George for Oladipo and Sabonis, then Sabonis for Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton now on a $42.1 million deal, and Pascal Siakam are the financial anchors. But the rest of the roster is filled out with players like Miles Turner, Andrew Nembhard, and Aaron Nesmith, talented contributors who don't break the bank. Their front office prioritized development and smart trades over splashy signings, building a roster that's deep, flexible, and sustainable. By proving you can reach, let alone win, the finals without tax bills, they've rewritten the unwritten rule that only top spenders contend. This is more than just a statistical anomaly. It's a direct challenge to the long-standing belief that small markets must overspend to keep up. Instead, both teams focused on asset management, internal development, and strategic risk-taking. The result, two finals rosters that are built to last and built smart. What stands out is the discipline. No panic moves, no chasing big names just to make headlines. Every decision, from the Paul George trades to the draft picks and signings, fit a clear long-term vision. Both franchises kept their payrolls flexible and made every dollar count, showing that sustainable success doesn't have to come with a luxury tax penalty. This matchup isn't just about the championship trophy. It's a case study in how two organizations use brains over budgets to reach the NBA's biggest stage. Their run isn't just impressive, it's a signal that the old rules of NBA contention are changing. Instead, what stands out is how the Thunder and Pacers map their route to the finals with smart trades, patient asset management, and a clear vision. Their journey shows that disciplined team building and strategic moves like those set in motion by Paul George can outpace even the league's biggest spenders. This isn't just a win for small market teams, it's a blueprint for sustainable success in a league where spending usually defines the contenders. Could any other star trade origin stories fuel future finals runs? Let us know in the comments. If you're into the business side of sports and want more deep dives on roster strategies under financial constraints, hit subscribe and leave a like. This is the new model for building success within financial limits.